I'm 82 years old, and if I'm being honest with you, I wasted 40 years of my life chasing something that doesn't matter anymore. Money. I don't mean I was poor and wanted to be comfortable. I mean I had enough, and I kept going. I had a good job, a family, a home, but I wanted more. I wanted security. I wanted to prove something. I wanted to build something that would last, and I did. But the cost was everything else. I'm telling you this because I don't have much time left to tell it, and because I see people making the same mistake I made. They think they'll balance it later. They think there's always tomorrow. They think the people they love will wait. They won't. When I was 35, I got a promotion. It was a big one. More responsibility, more travel, more money. My wife congratulated me. My kids were young then, maybe 6 and 9. I remember my daughter asked if I'd be home for her school play. I said I'd try. I didn't make it. I told myself it was just one play. There'd be others. And there were. But I missed those too. At the time, I didn't think of it as a choice. I thought I was doing the right thing, providing, building a future, making sure they'd have everything they needed, college funds, a bigger house, vacations we'd take someday when things slowed down. Things never slowed down. I worked late most nights. I traveled 3, sometimes 4 times a month. I was good at my job. People respected me. I got promoted again at 42, then again at 48. Each time I told myself this was it. This was the level where I could finally ease up, but there was always something else. Another project, another deal, another opportunity I couldn't pass up. My son played baseball. I knew that, but I couldn't tell you what position he played. I wasn't there. My wife went to the games. She'd tell me about them, and I'd nod and say that's great, and then I'd go back to my emails. He quit baseball when he was 14. I didn't even know why until years later. He told me about 5 years ago that he quit because I never came to watch. He said he didn't see the point anymore. He said it so casually, like it was just a fact. Not angry, not hurt, just factual. That hurt more than if he'd yelled at me. My daughter got interested in art. She'd show me her drawings sometimes, and I'd glance at them while I was getting ready for work. I'd say they were nice. I meant it. But I never sat down and really looked. I never asked her what she was trying to create or why she loved it. She stopped showing me after a while. She went to art school. I paid for it. I thought that was enough. I thought providing the means was the same as being involved. It wasn't. She had a gallery showing when she was 25. Small, local, she invited me. I had a conference that weekend. I told her I'd make the next one. There was a next one. I missed that too. My wife started going to bed earlier. We used to stay up and talk. That stopped slowly. I'd come home. She'd be reading or watching something, and I'd go straight to my office. I told myself I'd join her soon. Just needed to finish a few things. By the time I came to bed, she was asleep. We didn't fight about it. I think that's what made it worse. If we'd fought, maybe I would have noticed. But she just adjusted. She built a life that worked around my absence. She had friends, hobbies, routines that didn't include me. And I thought that was fine. I thought we were fine. I remember she asked me once if we could take a weekend trip, just the two of us. No kids, no work, just us. I said yes, I meant it. But when the weekend came, something came up at work. An emergency, they called it. I told her we'd reschedule. We never did. She stopped asking after that. The years went by faster than I realized. My son graduated high school. Then college. He got married. I was at the wedding, but I felt like a guest, not his father. I didn't know his wife well. I'd met her twice before the wedding. My daughter moved to a different city for work. She called less and less. Our conversations got shorter, more surface level. I thought it was normal. I thought that's just what happens when kids grow up. But it wasn't normal. It was the consequence of years of absence, years of choosing work over presence, years of thinking there'd be more time. I told myself I was doing it for them. That's what I told myself every time I missed something, every time I worked late, every time I chose the office over the dinner table. I was building their future. I was making sure they'd never struggle the way I did growing up. But they didn't need financial security, they needed a father. And I wasn't there. I retired at 60. I'd saved well, more than enough. I thought retirement would be the beginning of something, finally. All that time I'd promised, all those trips we'd talked about, all those dinners and conversations and moments we'd delayed. But my wife had changed, or maybe I had, or maybe we both had, separately. She was polite, kind even, but there was a distance I couldn't cross. I'd suggest things, a trip, a restaurant, a movie, and she'd agree, but it felt like obligation, like she was being nice to someone she used to know. We went on a cruise that first year of retirement. I thought it would help. I thought being away together with nothing else to do would bring us back to who we used to be, but we were strangers. We sat at dinner and ran out of things to say. We walked on the deck in silence. We went to shows and sat next to each other like polite acquaintances. One night, I asked her if she was happy. She looked at me for a long time before answering. She said, "I learned to be. I didn't know what that meant then. I do now." She meant she'd learned to be happy without me. She'd built a life that didn't need me in it, and now that I was suddenly available, suddenly present, it was too late to fit back in. My son lived 2 states away. He called on holidays. The conversations were short, surface level. He'd ask how I was, I'd ask about his work, his wife, his kids, then we'd run out of things to say. I didn't know him, and he didn't know me. I met my grandchildren. They were polite, shy around me. They didn't know who I was. I was just the old man who showed up once or twice a year with gifts. I tried. I really did. I tried to be present. I tried to be involved. But you can't build a relationship in a few visits. You can't make up for decades in a couple of weekends. My daughter visited more often, but I could tell she did it out of duty. She'd sit across from me at lunch and we'd talk about nothing. Weather, news, her job, but never anything real. Never anything that mattered. I wanted to ask her about her life, her dreams, whether she was happy, whether she ever thought about those drawings she used to show me, whether she still painted. But I didn't know how. I'd lost the right to ask those questions decades ago. One time, I tried. I asked her if she still made art. She said not really, said she didn't have time anymore. I wonder if that's true or if she just didn't want to share it with me. My wife died 3 years ago, heart attack. Sudden. She was 76. We were having breakfast. She was telling me about something she'd read. I was half listening, looking at my phone. Old habits. She stopped mid-sentence, put her hand on her chest, said she felt strange. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was gone. The last conversation I had with my wife, I wasn't even fully present for. At the funeral, people told stories about her. Her friends, our kids, even some neighbors. They talked about her kindness, her humor, the way she listened, the things she cared about, the life she'd lived. I realized I didn't know half of it. I didn't know she'd volunteered at a literacy center for 15 years. I didn't know she'd taken painting classes and had a whole studio set up in the spare room. I didn't know she'd been part of a book club that met every week for over a decade. I didn't know she'd mentored young women in the community. I didn't know she'd organized fundraisers for local schools. I didn't know she'd written poetry. Poetry. My wife wrote poetry and I never knew. I lived in the same house as her for 45 years and I didn't know her. After the funeral, I found her studio. It was in the room I'd used for storage. She'd cleared a corner, set up an easel, organized paints and brushes. There were canvases stacked against the wall, dozens of them. They were beautiful. She'd painted landscapes, portraits, abstract pieces. She had talent, real talent, and I never knew, never asked, never looked. I found notebooks too, journals, poetry, thoughts she'd written down over the years. I read them all. She wrote about loneliness, about building a life alone while married, about loving someone who wasn't there, about accepting that some distances can't be closed. She never said any of this to me. She just lived with it, and I never noticed. After she died, I thought my kids and I would get closer. I thought maybe this would be the thing that brought us together, shared grief, shared loss. It wasn't. They were kind, they checked in, but they had their own lives, their own families, and I was just there, on the periphery, a name on a holiday card, a phone call every few weeks. I don't blame them. I wasn't there when it mattered. Why would they be here now? My son's daughter, my granddaughter, had a dance recital last year. He sent me a video. She was good, really good. She reminded me of my daughter at that age. I called him after I watched it, told him she was wonderful, asked if I could come to the next one. He said sure, he'd let me know when it was. He never did. I don't think he forgot. I think he just didn't see the point. I have money, more than I'll ever spend. I have a house that's too big. I have a calendar with almost nothing on it. I thought I was building something. I thought I was securing a future. But all I did was trade the present for a future that never came. The money didn't make me happy. The promotions didn't make me happy. The respect at work didn't make me happy. What would have made me happy was sitting on the bleachers watching my son play baseball. What would have made me happy was looking at my daughter's drawings and asking her to tell me about them. What would have made me happy was staying up late talking to my wife about nothing. But I didn't do those things. I told myself I'd do them later. I told myself there was time. There wasn't. I try to think about what I would change if I could go back. It's not one big thing. It's 1,000 small things. I'd come home at 5:30 instead of 8 proud. I'd sit at the dinner table and ask my kids about their day, and I'd actually listen. I'd tell my wife she looked nice, and I'd mean it. I'd go to the baseball games, even the ones in the rain. I'd look at the drawings, really look, and ask questions. I'd say no to the extra projects. I'd say no to the promotions that required more time. I'd say yes to the weekend trips. I'd say yes to the small moments that seemed insignificant at the time, but were actually everything. I'm 82 now. I'm healthy for my age. I might have a few years left, maybe more. But it doesn't matter. The time I needed isn't ahead of me, it's behind me, and I can't get it back. I can't go back and sit in the audience at my daughter's school play. I can't go back and learn who my wife really was. I can't go back and be the father my son needed. It's gone, all of it. And what I have left is a house full of things and a life full of silence. If you're listening to this and you're younger than I am, and you probably are, I want you to hear this clearly. The people you love will not wait forever. They'll adjust, they'll build lives that work without you. And one day you'll look up and realize you're not part of those lives anymore. You'll be a visitor, a stranger in your own family. And no amount of money will fix that. I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying don't provide. I'm saying don't convince yourself that later is good enough. It's not. Your son's baseball game is happening now. Your daughter's art show is happening now. Your wife wants to talk to you now. Not later, now. Because later, they'll stop asking. Later, they'll stop expecting you. Later, they'll stop needing you. And you'll have all the time in the world and no one to spend it with. I sit in this house most days. I watch TV. I read. I go for walks. It's quiet. So quiet, sometimes I think I hear my wife in the other room or my kids running up the stairs. But it's just the house settling, just the emptiness making noise. I give everything I have to go back to the noise, the chaos, the mess of a life being lived with people who love me, but I can't. So I'm telling you instead, don't do what I did. Don't trade the people who matter for the things that don't. Don't wait until it's too late to realize that time is the one thing you can't buy back. Don't end up alone in a big house wondering where everyone went. They didn't go anywhere. You did. And by the time you come back, they've moved on without you. That's what I learned. That's what 40 years of chasing money taught me. It taught me that I was wrong about everything that mattered. And now there's no time left to make it right.